Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Today we are going to discuss sampling. So the definition of sampling, steps in sampling, types of sampling, which includes probability and non-probability. We are going to discuss in subsequent slides. The concept of population is very important. Population is also known as universe, and each member of the population is called element. So population can be human beings, animals like guinea pigs, rabbits, or any other animal. It may be lab reports, specimens, culture reports, or anything we are interested to work upon. So the measurements which we are going to make on the elements of the population. For example, if we take reproductive age females, and I'm interested to measure hemoglobin level of each and every member of the population, or you can say element of the population, the mean HP will be the parameter. So if I take a sample of this population, and that sample will also consist of reproductive age females, but these reproductive age females will be called a sample, and the measurement of HP level and mean HP will be called statistic. That's why this term is the basis of the field of statistics and biostatistics as the part of mathematics. So it means the field of statistics, it deals with samples, measurements on samples. So these measurements, they're very important. We should know the difference between parameter and statistics. A sample is a subset of the whole, a subset of a population, which may be random or non-random, may be representative or non-representative. And the advantage is it is cheaper to work on sample rather than working on a population. For example, if we are doing census of Pakistan, it will take a lot of time, and it will not be very convenient, and it will be expensive as well. So if we take a sample and then conduct a study on the sample, then it will be cheaper. And it is sometimes it's not possible to conduct a survey. In that case, again, sampling is advantageous. Types of sampling, it includes the main two types, probability and non. In probability sampling, in the population, if each element gets equal chance of being selected in the sample, then that sampling technique is called probability sampling. If each and every element in the population does not get equal chance, then it's a non-probability sampling technique. In probability sampling, we can easily generalize our findings to the whole population. But if we are going for non-probability sampling, we cannot generalize our findings, and it will create bias if we are generalizing it. So the types of probability sampling include simple random sampling, systematic random sampling, cluster sampling, and stratified sampling. We are going to take them one by one. In non-probability, we have snowball sampling, quota sampling, convenience sampling. There is another type of convenience sampling that is called consecutive sampling, in which we consecutively enroll the study subjects, the elements in the population into our sample. In that way, because we are consecutively enrolling them, so we can assume that they represent the population. And this convenience sampling, the consecutive type of convenience sampling, is close to probability technique. Okay, so in this, each and every member or subject of the sample, it has the same attributes or qualities of the elements. So that's why if we make some measurement on the sample, we can generalize it on the population. In the case, if we do a probability sampling, then we can say the generalizability is possible. Otherwise, in non-probability, it's not possible. Simple random sampling is a type of probability sampling in which we need a sampling frame, a complete list of the total population. In population is infinite, so we actually work on target population. For example, in a company, I have in that company I have employees, 1,000 employees working over there. out of those 1,000, I need a sample of 100. So I can make a list of 1,000 employees and allot a specific number to each and every employee, and then use a draw or lottery method to select 100. Okay. There is another way, because making a lot of draw or lottery possible for 1,000 is difficult. So I can use computer generated random number table. Okay. So now coming to the advantage of this simple random sampling, in where there is a generalizability. We can generalize our result on the whole population. Systematic random sampling is a probability sampling technique in which again we need a sampling frame, a complete list of our target population. In this example, I have 1,000 employees working in a company. My target population, I will give a unique number to each one of them, and I will select 100 out of them by dividing 100 with 1,000, and 1 over 10th will be my nth number or kth number. So every 10th employee will be included in my sample, and how I'm going to select the first one, that from where the jumping of 10 will start. The first one will be selected by taking a simple random sampling, doing a simple random sampling, a draw method or a lottery method of first 10 individuals or first 10 employees. Okay, then if for example I got number 4 in the draw, that from fourth individual or fourth employee in the list, the jumping will start, and from fourth it will be 14th, then 24th. So in that way it will be 10, jumping of 10, but it will start from fourth. Then there is stratified sampling. In stratified, by the name, we can get an idea that we are dealing with strata. For example, we have age and gender strata, or locality-wise strata, or religion-wise strata. So we can be more precise if we have subgroup representation. If, for example, out of 1,000 employees, I am interested to take a sample of 100, and in those 100, I am interested to take 50 males and 50 females, equally representing male and females. In that, this is called a non-proportionate stratified sampling. But if I take male and female in the same proportion, in the same ratio they exist in the population, for example, there are 60% females and 40% male, 60-40 ratio, then I will, in my sample, the same ratio will be reflected, or same proportion will be reflected. So here I would like to explain the concept behind stratified sampling. It's the advantage that we have, that we can get representation of every group in the strata, or every subgroup or strata. For example, if we have very few 65 plus females or 65 plus males, the in by using stratified sampling, we can have their representation as well. So in cluster sampling, when population is geographically spread out, sample by groups or clusters, they are made. For example, it's because it's cost effective or if the population is very scattered, it's very difficult to reach each and every place to get the representative samples. In that case, we make identify groups. For example, we are working on school children, and we can take schools as groups, and each school is will serve as a cluster, and we will sample clusters, and then all the population or all the subjects in the cluster, they will be either entirely enrolled for for the study, or we can again have an option of doing any probability sampling technique and taking a sample representative sample from the clusters. For example, if I select 9 clusters, 9 schools in Lahore, and in each school in each school there are different number of students. For example, in one school there are 1,000 students, in other there are 800, in others in few other schools it might be less than 500. So in that case, either I will do census and include each and every student in the cluster, in the selected clusters, or I can do simple random sampling or systematic random sampling over there. And there is another option of using non-probability sampling technique in cluster sampling as well. So, but it is preferred to use probability sampling method. Convenience sampling is type of non-probability sampling. It's usually time convenience and geographical convenience is taken, and it is quick, easy access to participant, or it's simple, low cost and fast, high, but there is high selection bias, poor generalizability. Purposive sampling. When specific individuals are needed for expert opinion or deep insights. For example, in qualitative research, we want those key informants or those individuals who are expert, or they have a clear insight of the problems. So, and they are vocal, more vocal as compared to others. So purposely, I will be selecting those for the in-depth interviews or focus group discussion. It focuses on most relevant cases, rich qualitative data is obtained, and it's subjective, prone to researcher bias, but still purposive sampling is one of the best sampling used in qualitative research. Snowball sampling. When population is hard to reach, for example, stigmatized or hidden groups, in that case, we use this snowball sampling. It's for rare or sensitive population, and it's non-random, may exclude those not connected to the network. Um, so there is a bias in it. We, but it's for example, if I get to know someone with HIV positive, and he is, I can dig out about his contacts, and from contact tracing, I can identify more population with the same positivity, HIV positive status, or with AIDS. And in that way, I can increase my sample size by contact tracing. And like a snowball, the sample size will go on increasing. And it's about sensitive issues like other sexually transmitted diseases. They are also an example of in which we need snowball sampling. Then comes the quota sampling. In quota sampling, when specific cohorts or subgroups are needed without randomization, and it ensures that subgroups or minorities, they are represented in the sample. For example, there was a time when there was a fixed quota for girls in medical schools, and now another example is our medical college. We have a federal quota. We have a quota for tribal areas. We have quota for Islamabad. And so quota system is there. It's a non-probability form of stratified sampling in which we are making strata, but these are fixed number which or percentage which we are going to take. So selecting a sampling method, it depends on research objective and question. What are you trying to discover or measure? Is your goal to generalize findings to a population, that is quantitative, or explore in-depth understanding, that is qualitative? Whether your goal is quantitative research or a qualitative research, and what exactly you are going to measure or discover. So the sampling method will depend on this objective or question. Then the study design. We have quantitative studies often require probability sampling, random, stratified sampling, they are commonly used, and because we have to generalize our findings. So in quantitative studies, there is generalizability issue, so we go for probability sampling. While in qualitative studies, typically we use non-probability sampling like purposive sampling or snowball sampling to gather rich, detailed data. Then the population characteristics, they also determine which sampling method will be used, that how large and accessible is your target population. Are there subgroups you need to include like gender, age, professional role, etc. And if you need subgroup analysis, you need subgroups to start with, then you can go for stratified sampling. If you have a large and accessible target population, then you can go for systematic random sampling. Or if you have small target population, then you can go for simple random sampling. So there are different techniques to be used in according to population. Then available resources. Time, money, manpower, logistic influence whether you can perform random sampling or need to use convenience or purposive method. So logistics or resources availability is an important parameter. Number 5, desired level of precision and generalizability. Do you need statistically representative results or insight into specific experiences? If yes, go for probability sampling. If you don't need a representative result, then you can go for, and you don't need to generalize your finding, you can go for non-probability sampling. Number 6, ethical consideration. Are there privacy, sensitivity, or equity concerns in how you select your participant? If there are privacy concerns, there are sensitive issue, sensitivity concern, equity concern, then you can go for non-probability, because there will be the participant might not volunteer according to the sequence you are going in a probability sampling. So you have to wait for volunteers. In that case, you are actually opting for non-probability. So if there are ethical issues, the non-probability methods are commonly used. So the best sampling method is the one that aligns with your research goals, population, study design, and practical constraints. And a well-designed sampling enhances internal validity by minimizing bias and confounding. So what is internal validity? It is the how valid your study is. And the internal validity is determined by the design of the study. So if a well-designed study is there and a well-designed sampling that is part of the designing of a study is taken, well-designed sampling technique or sampling is defined by it minimizes bias and confounding. Bias is a systematic error that can arise during your study throughout the process of your study, and confounding is also a type of bias in which a third variable it distorts the results of your study. In that case, these are the main threats. Bias and confounding bias, they are a main threats to internal validity. So when you design a study with proper sampling technique using probability sampling, you are actually ensuring the internal validity of your study. So this ensures that the observed effects are due to the intervention and not other variables. So threats from poor sampling. Convenient sampling may over or underrepresent certain characteristics, introduces confounding or selection bias. Like snowball sampling or purposive sampling can reflect only specific viewpoints, limits accurate cause-effect inferences. So in quantitative research, we usually try to avoid non-probability sampling, convenience, or snowball purposive sampling. So ideally, it's the no probability sampling techniques are the best one. So there is a short quiz just to practice what you have learned. Dash is a set of elements taken from a larger population according to certain rules. It is a sample, population, statistic, or element. So sample is the correct answer. When each member of a population has an equally likely chance of being selected, this is called a non-random sampling method, a quota sample, a snowball sample, an equal probability selection method. The answer is an equal probability selection method. Which of the following will give a more accurate representation of the population from which a sample has been taken? A large sample based on the convenience sampling technique, a small sample based on simple random sampling, a large sample based on simple random sampling, a small cluster sample. A large sample based on simple random sampling is the correct answer. People who are available, volunteer, or can be easily recruited are used in the sampling method called simple random sampling, cluster sampling, systematic random sampling, or convenience sampling. The answer is convenience sampling. Which of the following techniques yield a simple random sample? Choosing volunteers from an introductory psychology class to participate, listing the individual's ethnic group and choosing a proportion from within each ethnic group at random, numbering all the elements of a sampling frame and then using a random number table to pick cases from the table, randomly selecting schools and then sampling everyone within the school. The correct answer is numbering all the elements of a sampling frame and then using a random number table to pick cases from the table. In which of the following non-random sampling techniques does the researcher ask the research participant to identify other potential research participant? Snowball, convenience, purposive, or quota? It's the snowball sampling. A number calculated with complete population data and quantifies a characteristic of the population is called which of the following? A datum, a statistic, a parameter, a population. The correct answer is a parameter. Determining the sample interval, randomly selecting a number between 1 and k and including each kth element in your sample are the steps for which form of sampling? Simple random sampling, stratified random sampling, systematic sampling, or cluster sampling. It is systematic random sampling. So here we complete the sampling and thank you very much. The next video will be on sample size calculation.